Good morning. Welcome to Sunday live stream worship with First Unitarian Church of Hobart, Indiana. My name is Pete O'Day, and I'm a member of our worship committee, and I will be facilitating our service this morning. It's great to be with you all again. We here at First Unitarian of Hobart are Unitarian Universalists, a religious faith comprised of people with diverse beliefs and shared values. Our diverse beliefs are expressed in our 6 sources, and our shared values are expressed in our 7 principles, both of which can be easily found online at uua.org under Our Faith. Together, we UUs strive to grow spiritually, build community, and live our values into the world. During this time of responsible social distancing, as we strive to maintain the authenticity of our services, we wish to express our gratitude to those who make this possible. The bell you heard ringing a moment ago was our actual church bell, which was recorded by member Bob Allen. The chalice which you will see being lit today is our actual chalice, which will be lit by member James Johnson. The music you hear is recorded each week by our music director, Jeremy Jacobson, sometimes, as today, with the accompaniment of our choir. And the technical aspects of this service have been made possible by James Johnson and by Zoom host John Halstead. If you are willing and able, we invite you to leave your cameras on during the service so that your fellow congregants can see you just as they would if you were physically present in our sanctuary. We are currently streaming on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. Our service is recorded and will be made available for future viewing on Facebook, YouTube, and our church's website. Our congregation is at present in search of a full-time minister. During this time of transition, while we search for professional leadership we can call our own, our Zoom pulpit is frequently blessed with sermons from guest UU ministers. Last Sunday, for example, we heard a powerful teaching from the Reverend Sinkford of the Portland, Oregon UU Church. Today, however, we are doubly blessed. We not only will hear a sermon from a great UU minister, but it will be spoken by our beloved Jenny Peake, who began her UU journey as one of us, as a lay member of this very congregation. Jenny was a member here when she first entered seminary. And so it is fitting that Jenny Peake should visit us for the first time as an ordained UU minister today, a day when we welcome new lay members to this growing community. The Reverend Jenny Peake, I love saying that, the Reverend Jenny Peake now serves our sibling congregation in Pocatello, Idaho. Her work in Pocatello centers on community collaboration, interfaith dialogue, and nurturing relationships built on trust, respect, and commitment to building a better world together. And Jenny Peake has an amazing orange cat with green eyes who lives up to his name, Loki. Now, please take a deep breath and join us in the spirit of reverence as we listen to our prelude performed by Jeremy Jacobs.
I have to say thank you, Pete, for that warm and lovely introduction. I blush, I smile, I rejoice at this chance to be with you again. Thanks also, Jeremy, for his amazing gift of music. Now, please join me in speaking the words on your screen as we light the chalice. Our chalice lighting today comes from the International Council of Unitarians and Universalists and is offered specifically by our sibling congregation, the Unitarian Church of Hungary. Let us say these words. We light this chalice in remembrance of those who laid down the foundation of our communities in the spirit of freedom, love, and tolerance, to remember that true light will outshine darkness. Faith is the gift of God. The true signs of faith are an inner purity and love and an honest life and good deeds. Love is the ultimate interpretation and completion of the law. According to Jesus, love is the plenitude of the law. Love is a royal commandment. Love is the true freedom which does not bear the bondage of fear. Love is the creative spirit of the world, the highest treasure of humankind. Those words are written by Ferenc David, who was the founder of the Hungarian Unitarian Church in the 16th century. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone who may celebrate that. As Pete said, I do serve the fellowship in Pocatello, Idaho. In those services, opening words as an element is named call to worship. One thing that I love and that makes me smile about Unitarian Universalist space is our willingness to dissect words, to share hours examining the nuanced meaning of all we say. For this element, the choice of the word worship, I agree, it's layered with questions. Worship, who, what? Opening words, inviting us in to do something together for about an hour. The first time I read a particular definition of the word worship was in a blog written by the Reverend Sarah Scher. Sarah Scher said, worship is the intentional naming and then lifting up of that which is worthy of such attention, worthy of time. I really like that definition. But it occurs to me that by the time we settle on a definition of a word, worship, we might be ready to go get our coffee and pastries, considering our work done for the day. Well, it is the next part that I would like us to lean our focus on. In the definition, the real work begins, in fact, when we consider how we will lift up that which we hold to be worthy. What muscles do we need to flex? Today, I invite you in with me to consider love as that which is worthy of our attention and intentional lifting up. And we will do so through music and prose, story, and my personal reflection. Let us infuse ourselves with love as an idea, as a feeling, as a necessity shaping our world in better ways. And so I say, come, let us wonder together. Please join me now as we open in song. Hymn number 131 is a favorite of mine. It is from our Singing the Living Tradition hymnal, and it is called Love Will Guide Us.
On the road from
Please join me now in speaking together our affirmation of faith as displayed on your screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. Service is its prayer. And this is our covenant: to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our story for all ages today comes from the text Old Path, White Clouds, written by Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh, who tells the life journey of the Buddha. You will see that we are showing this in a captioned video version from Words of Wisdom, which is a beautifully illustrated story of Buddha and Angulimala, who had taken a vow to kill 1,000 people and who had already killed 999 when he encounters Buddha. As we watch this particular excerpt of Buddha and Angulimala, we may ask ourselves, where is the love in this story? Hear these words.
Once upon a time, there was a man who was a mad murderer. He had taken a vow that he would kill 1,000 people. Because society had not treated him well, he had decided to take revenge on society by killing 1,000 men, and from every person killed, he would take one finger and make a rosary around his neck. Because of this, his name became Angulimal, the man with rosary of fingers. Everyone was afraid of Angulimal. Even kings, generals were afraid of him. Nobody would move in those parts wherever people came to know that Angulimal lived. It became very difficult for him to find one man to kill him and complete his vow. One day, Buddha was staying at village near that forest. The day he left from village, villagers said, "Don't go that way. There lived a mad murderer. He has already killed 999 people. He does not think twice before killing. He will not think that you are a Buddha. There is another way. You can take that path." Buddha said, "If I don't go, then who will go? He is waiting for one more, so I have to go. He needs me. I must take the risk. Either he will kill me or I will change him." Saying this, Buddha left. Disciples who had said that they would remain with Buddha till very end were scared, and as they moved toward forest, even disciples started to lag behind because of danger. When Buddha reached hill, he was all alone. Angulimal was sitting on a rock. He saw Buddha and thought, "This man seems to be absolutely unaware that I am here. Otherwise, nobody goes along this path." Buddha looked so innocent, so beautiful that even Angulimal felt compassion and thought, "It is not good to kill this man. I will leave him. I can find somebody else to complete my vow." But he was determined to complete his vow. Then he said to Buddha, "Go back. Stop right there. Don't step forward. I am Angulimal. I have killed 999 people and I just need one more finger. Even if my mother come, I will kill her to complete my vow. So don't come near to me. You may look like a monk, but I don't believe in any religion. I don't care if you are a great saint All I care about is killing one more person. So don't step forward, otherwise I will kill you. Still Buddha continued moving. Angulimal thought maybe this man is deaf or mad. So he shouted again, "Stop, don't move another step." Then Buddha said, "I have stopped long ago. I am not moving." Angulimal, you are moving. All my movement has stopped because all motivation has stopped. When there is no motivation, how can movement happen? There is no goal for me. I have achieved the goal, so why should I move? You are moving, and I say to you, you stop. Angulimal was still sitting on the rock. He started laughing and said, "You are really mad. I am sitting, and you say to me that I am moving. You are moving, and still you say that you are stopped." Buddha came near and said, "I have heard that you need one more finger. As far as this body is concerned, my goal is achieved. This body is useless. When I die, people will burn it. It will be of no use to anyone. You can use it. Your vow can be fulfilled. Cut off my finger and cut off my head. I have come on purpose because this is the last chance for my body to be used in some way. Otherwise, people will burn it." Angulimal said, "What are you saying? I thought that I was the only mad around here. You don't try to be clever because I am very dangerous. I can kill you." Buddha said, "Before you kill me, do one thing. Just a wish of a dying man. Cut off a branch of this tree." Angulimal hit his sword against the tree and the big branch fell down. Buddha said, "Just one more thing. Now join it again to the tree." Angulimal said, "Now I know perfectly that you are mad. I can cut, but I cannot join." Buddha started laughing and said, "When you can only destroy and cannot create, then you have no right to destroy it, because destruction can be even done by children. There is no bravery in it. This branch can be cut by a child, but to join it, a master is needed. And if you cannot join back a branch to the tree, then how can you cut off human heads? Have you ever thought about it?" Angulimal closed his eyes and fell down at Buddha's feet and said, "I have never thought like that. You are right. If I cannot create, I have no right to destroy. But I don't know. What should I do then? You please lead me on that path." And it is said that in a single moment, Angulimal was completely changed. His destructive nature changed into creative. He changed from a murderer to a monk. It was said that wherever Buddha was teaching, for up to 20 miles, all around that place, there never used to be violence, and things used to be very calm and very peaceful. Peace generates from deep within. It generates from the being to the mind, and from the mind to the environment. This is Words of Wisdom Stories. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.
While the music plays, you are invited to make a monetary offering. The offering link will be posted in the chat box. You can make an offering anytime after the service as well.
today is the poem To Invoke Love by the Reverend Sean Parker Dennison, who describes themselves as, quote, a genderqueer minister who loves art, reading, computer games, cooking, theology, poetry, writing, painting, photography, and kids, unquote. Reverend Sean serves our sibling congregation in Ashland, Oregon. Hear these words. To invoke love is to ask for a hug from a thunderstorm, spill tea in the lap of the infinite trickster, to make the biggest, most embarrassing mistake of your life in front of everyone who matters. To invoke love is to never know if it will come softly with the muzzle of a beloved dog, or pounce right on your chest with the strength of a lioness protecting her cub, her pride, her homeland. To invoke love is to take the risk of inviting chaos to visit the spaces you spent so much time making tidy, and watch as the breath of life scatters everything you have only just folded and put away. To invoke love is to allow for the possibility that your words and actions might become so empowered that you can no longer believe in apathy or the self-righteous idea that nothing can change. To invoke love is to give up self-deprecation, false humility, pride, to consider yourself worthy to be made whole, willing to encounter love that will never let us let each other go. To invoke love is to guard against assumptions, take care with our words, and practice forgiveness, not as ethereal ideal, but right here in the messy midst of our imperfect lives. This reading is from 30 Days of Love 2021 at sidewithlove.org.
That reading, every time I hear it, just gives me chills. And I almost think, okay, did you hear that? We're done here. Let's go on and get our coffee. It is that powerful a message. Grounded in humanism, and knowing I would be speaking with my good friends here today, I wanted to honor and affirm the responsible search for truth and meaning on this topic of love. And I did a little bit of homework, landing on a book written some years ago by Robert Wright as part of my research. Wright's book, The Moral Animal, looked promising to me. It looked as though at least 3 chapters would give me the evolutionary perspective, the scientific perspective on our topic of love. How does love show up for humans in ways that work for us as part of the interconnected web of all existence, as one of many living beings? Well, it did give me some food for thought. But I identify as much as a spiritual being as I do a product of genetics, evolution, and lived experience. I couldn't help, as I was reading these words in The Moral Animal, what was I thinking? The title alone could have told me that I was going to be delving into something that might be devoid of spirituality, of love as a call for all of us. But I thought, I'm not giving it it's fair due. I will go ahead and read on. I can get through just these 3 chapters that looked so promising. I have to say that as I read it, I thought, well, here might be a clue as to why folks who are more conservative in religion, for whom God in the father of Abraham's sense of God, plays such a vital role in their understanding of the commandment of love. It could be why folks who are coming from that path look at folks who may identify more as progressive, grounded in science and reason and the search of truth and meaning as being devoid of the rich mystery of love, as being one of the worst words I ever heard was latte liberals. That felt so, ooh, don't call me that. It feels so offensive. And yet, I kept plowing through this text and I came to the quote that cinched it for me. Okay, I've taken all I can from it, and now I'm going to move on. And here's what the quote was from this book of rights. Emotions are just evolution's executioners. Wow. To reduce our ability to love, to feel, to experience wonder and awe in the sense that it can be a spiritual experience, to reduce it to, oh, there go my executioners of evolution at work right here and now, feels so small, so small and unimaginative, unwilling to breathe the life of what we can do together, what we can dream together into our existence. That needs something more. Years ago, I worked as a behavioral advocate in Indianapolis with adults who had developmental delay, and this was a residential facility, a 3-story building in Indianapolis. There were over 180 people living together. And when we have people living together like that, people get to know each other. People get feelings for each other and they fall in love. My coworker and I knew that this was going on, and we created a date night program where people could go out, experience eating together, dating. Do we hold hands in public? Is kissing okay? How do we respect one another? What does that look like? And so my coworker Caesar and I would sit together as unobtrusive as we could be with 3 or 4 couples at a time. And the folks needed something from us. We would laugh later about why were we there? What they needed was something like just rudimentary guidance on etiquette, on dating, on good talks that demonstrate to one another that we respect each other's autonomy, each other's opinions. Also to encourage folks to say no and to trust that that will be heard and respected. Mostly, though, we did not feel like we were at work. There was laughter. Sometimes there was a movie that we enjoyed. There was cuddling that the folks were able to do. There were whispered sweet terms of endearments. All throughout that residence, in fact, way beyond the date nights, my takeaway was that there was constant evidence that humans know kindness, know compassion, are ready and willing to practice patience, to argue, yes, and then sweet makeups, right? Lesson observed and learned. We are not here to teach love, but only to support each other in its expression, to navigate when it gets complex, to understand where perhaps we're falling away from true love and delving into something that is not where at our core essence we would like to be as humans. As world religions go, humans are loved by their gods and are subsequently instructed, love each other, right? Judaism teaches that humans are made in God's image. So there we are, earthly of flesh, and yet we are divine in spirit. And in being so in the likeness of God, are capable of discerning. We can discern I ought, and we can discern I ought not, and then act accordingly. Jesus, being Jewish after all, quoted Leviticus, teaching his disciples, love each other as he had loved them. From Islam, it goes on, we learn that loving one another is among the most excellent forms of worship. There's that tricky word, worship, again. Continuing on, in all these world religions, then, what we find, just like me and my partner, when we were working with the clients on the date night program, continuing on, we may glean some wisdom, we may learn specific duties that are prescribed for us or suggestions on what love may look like in the doing of it. But I'm here to share with you today that this all rests on the given. We're equipped to do this. We have internally everything we need to get this right. We're wired for love. And this is love not for mere procreation, which seemed to be what the right book was all about, at least the 3 chapters I suffered to read, right? We're wired to love everything from weeping at a sunset to having our heart melt at the cooing of a baby, to checking on our neighbors after a storm. We're wired for love in all the right ways. Remembering to develop our anchor to that path, to that foundation, is all it takes for us to get this right. There are some evidence lately, and I'm thinking of the last 4 years in particular, where love rises up, sometimes taking the shape of righteous anger, of indignation, even of rage. Love, sometimes, without discipline of practice, gets buried under what feels and looks and comes out like another feeling, hatred. Hatred. When we are diminishing people to a particular shade of skin, I'll just say orange, we are somehow diminishing our own capacity to love. And we are giving into something that is lower than that which we are called to do and that we are equipped to do. And it gets so confusing. How do we find our way back to love? I think for us, it begins with recognizing sooner than later when we have started to veer away from it. If I'm coming from a place of love for my neighbors who are marginalized, from people who have been oppressed by a system that cares more about profit and bottom line for a few than it does about quality of life and easing the suffering of all. If grounded in that place of love, I then yield to imagining with some measure of delight the suffering of others, then I have wandered off path into false love. If love feels bad, mean-spirited, that is false love. But it's so complex. I'd love to be able to go down a list and say, oh, I've got it all figured out. If we just look at it this way and this way, we'll be fine. But sometimes, what if love seems to require the silencing of a voice, the modifying of words, or the qualifying? Was that always false? Or is there a time when that is called for? I'm on that brink of believing sometimes it is absolutely called for. There are some words and actions that are so heinous and harmful that they need squished. I was fine with Twitter deciding to remove the former President Trump. I was fine with it. But it isn't easy. I turned to teaching from the Buddha for helping further to think, okay, if we have the sense that we can veer off path, but if we embrace the truth that we are capable of love, that we have everything we need to do this, how can we practice it? How can we think of love in terms that allows us to go forward? In Buddhist faith, there are 4 elements of love, 4 elements of what we may call true love. And it takes some combination of all 4 for that perfect love we seek. And I'll run through these with you. The first is kindness, beginning in kindness. The Buddha taught us, conquer the angry one by not getting angry. Conquer the wicked by goodness. Conquer the stingy by generosity, and the liar by speaking truth. In our story today, that wonderful video that we saw, the story there was, here is a murderer. Run, avoid, fear, protect, self. The Buddha began, grounded deeply in kindness, saying, this may be the last useful thing my body can do, and I'm showing up for it. That is this first element of love and perfect example. Begin with kindness. We express it by, in our day-to-day lives, opening communication with each other, by yielding the floor to the person in front of us, by caring with an end goal simply of understanding each other more deeply, of demonstrating the willingness, the eagerness to hear others' points of view. The second element of love, according to the Buddhist path, is compassion. Compassion is what drives us to ease discomfort, to ease suffering. To do that, we need to understand suffering. We need perhaps to lean in with our own relatable personal experiences. Sometimes that's a surefire way to commit. And when there's a disconnect, when I am in this white privileged body, more or less, am not afraid to call the police for help, for instance, then I go to my grounding of compassion to say, it really matters that I learn to suffer with you from your perspective, and I am here to listen and try on your truth, and to glean a deeper understanding so that together we may partner to end that suffering. Takes a lot of practice. Isn't it nice to sit here on a Sunday and just say the words? But the practice of it, the coming back and discussing it over and over again, that, and then putting it into practice, that is worthy of our time. That is something we can lift up. The third element of love or expression of love in this Buddhist path is joy. I think of this perhaps most easily with the dynamic of one-to-one. When a couple finds themselves in a relationship where they've expressed love, that's one thing. But if there is no joy, if there is a disparity of power, right, that is not true love. If there is leaning into, if there is a desire to suffer, if there's a desire to oppress one, then that is not true love. And I say that, I think that always needs spoken, because we need also to be aware to protect ourselves of when it's time to disengage. It is time to recognize that we're bringing everything we have, but that it isn't working. So I think that's worth saying. But in the bigger circle of joy and practicing it and recognizing it, if we look to the wider community, and maybe there's joy in this one sector, or there's profitability and thriving going on over here. But then if we look to the margins and they're suffering, that is not true love. That is not a community where true love is happening. The fourth one, coming from the Buddhist teachings, is freedom. Freedom has so much responsibility with it. In fact, Buddha put a price on it. He said the price of freedom is simply choosing to be. Do we risk recognizing we have a choice in the matter? And do we claim freedom at the expense of others? Then we've lost our way. Or do we embrace freedom as the fourth expression of true love and say then it must extend to everyone? I do believe this takes a lot of investigative skills, and we have to ask ourselves, what does love require of me, of our faith community, of our town, of our nation, and so on and so forth right now? And as we practice it in our day-to-day lives, we'll begin hopefully to understand the difference a little bit in when we have strayed, when we are flattening what feels like enemy. If enemy is oppression and we are reducing oppressors to a handful of names or spewing our venom at them, then we're missing the point. So how do we steer it back? And that's the work that we'll do together. I want to end our time together today with this poem. It is written by humanist Todd Steeple. It is called Humanism is Love. And this to me is the antithesis to where I began with Robert Wright's reducing love to some neurochemical emotion is just a tool of evolution stuff. This is what I'd like to leave you with from the humanist perspective. Humanism is real love, love without supernatural deities. Humanism is good love, love that encourages good for goodness sake. Humanism is the love of life, love that increases happiness. Humanism is love with freedom, love without servitude to masters or scripture. Humanism is love with integrity, love with honesty, fairness, and accountability. Humanism is benevolent love, love that rejects killing, terror, and damnation. Humanism is equal love, love that welcomes everyone equally. Humanism is the love of the future, love that is growing quickly, and humanism is love now. Love we can enjoy during our lifetimes. May these words land gently where they will. Blessed be, and amen. I invite you now to join me as we sing our closing hymn, also from the Singing of the Living tradition. It is number 311, performed by our own Jeremy Jacobson, Let It Be a Dance. Blessed be. I love that song. Our closing words today also come from Singing the Living Tradition hymnal, number 705, and they are written by Hosea Ballou, who told us if we agree in love, there is no disagreement that will do us any injury. But if we do not, no agreement will do us any good. So let us endeavor to keep the unity of the Spirit within the bonds of peace.
Thank you, Jenny, for your teaching today, and welcome home. We love you. You will now hear the postlude performed by Jeremy Dick. Oh, that was wonderful. So nice to hear our choir again. Thank you, Jeremy, Maggie, and Vic. And I just have to say how creative this congregation is to be able to, in these times of Zoom, have both a choir and a service of welcoming new members. So this is just been a wonderful day, and welcoming a distant sister, home to give us a teaching. Now we come to our time of extinguishing our chalice. Please say these words together in unison. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.